Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This talk is part of the Skills Future Industry Speaker Series brought to you by Singapore Computer Society Student Chapter. The Skills Future Industry Speaker Series by SCS Student Chapter seeks to enrich classroom learning experience in the IHLs through engagement with industry speakers. The Scope ICT would like to thank the Singapore Computer Society for their help with organizing the talk. Our very experienced guest speaker for today has designed web portals and mobile apps for government agencies, banks, and investment firms in Singapore and Hong Kong. Today, she's here to share her expertise in the area of usability testing, which is an important step in every user experience design process. Let's welcome Senior Product Designer from Property Guru, Miss Emily Chung. I will now hand the time over to Emily. Emily, please.
Hi everyone, this is Emily. I have been working as a designer in different areas. So right now I'm with Property Guru. I'll share a bit more about my background later on. So without ado, let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So today I'll be talking about usability testing mostly. And I read through like some of your what are you expecting or what do you want to learn from this session. So I've included a bit more about like how is a workflow like in a design process when you're in like a company or you're in the industry. So I'll also include a bit more of that based on that. So today, the main goal is to understand UX as a profession and also why we do usability testing and also like how we can do it. So there are a lot of like different methods and also different ways to achieve like your goals. So what I'll be talking is based on my experience in like different projects. So you can always like adjust it and fine tune it based on like different situation and based on what new ways there are or your experiments. So there's no like a fixed answer for how we can do something. So about the agenda, I'll talk a bit more about my background and also go into what is UX and usability testing, which I'll use a short form, UT, to describe it. And then we'll go into why should we do UT and also like how can we do software design and UT. And I'll end with like a Q&A. So you can post your question in the Teams chat. I'll be looking at it every now and then and also try to address it in the end of the session. But then if I couldn't answer your question, you can always like drop an email to Mei Hua and then I'll also answer it after the session. So before I go into my background, I also want to understand like what do you want to do in the future? It can be like your internship or your grad job or maybe your long-term goal in the future so that I can also adjust some of my content, what I'll talk about based on it. So you can go to like thismenti.com and then enter the code 83607622, or you can just use your phone to scan this QR code. And while you're inputting that, I'll be also talking about my background. So feel free to enter if you have like anything you want to do that you want to let me know so I can address that later. So I'll keep like the Menti code here and then feel free to put it in. So yeah, while I'm talking. And it's also anonymous. So a bit about my background. So I was studying English literature when I was in university in Hong Kong. So that's why like I put like a Shakespeare's face here. And that was like very analog, right? It's not like something very digital. So when I was in university, I had an opportunity to work in a startup in Hong Kong. So they create like contents for audience around the world. So it's in English. And it's a website called lifehack.com. So I was an editorial intern there. And then that's when I started to step into like a digital world, learning about how to do like how to run a startup. with my colleagues and my boss. So at that time, I was like very interested in the digital field. So after I graduated, I started in an agency in Hong Kong called New Digital Noise. So it's a social media digital agency. I was doing Facebook. I was creating like Facebook and Instagram content for different brands, like Fujifilm, you know, the instant camera, and also like Expedia. I like write contents that will reach out to Facebook and social media users, and also like create like video or like take pictures and create like the, you know, the Instagram image there. So at that agency, I started to take in some projects to do with different applications, like your credit card app, so that you can take a look at your bill and then like pay your credit card bill. So at that time, I stepped into user experience. So that's why I joined Accenture, which is a IT consultancy. So I joined the Accenture in Hong Kong, and then I moved over to Singapore Accenture. So during that few years in Accenture, I worked for different clients. For example, like different government agency in Singapore, and also a commercial bank in Singapore. And I'll talk more about the projects later and how we can use like how I applied the design process and UT there. And recently, I joined Property Guru as a senior product designer. So I've been working on, so Property Guru has different business. So one is to the property seekers when you're looking to rent or when you're like looking to buy a house, then you can like go and see what's out there. And also like property agents can also post what's available in the market for the property seekers to look to for rent or sell. So I've been like working on that websites for Property Guru. Okay, I've seen like some answers to the Mentimeter. So quite a few like UX designer and also UX researcher. Yes, I'll be talking a bit more about that as well. And so a note in Accenture when I was there, I was the official role is like an interaction designer. So I was doing both like a researcher job and also a designer job. So it depends on like different projects. Sometimes like you have to do research first and then you go into like the design phase. So 3D modeling related, develop and design, game developer, concept artist, front end development. Yeah, so I see like few patterns here. So one is more about like front end development, game development, and also like UX UI design. Some is more related to like research. So intern, okay. I'm not like very familiar with 3D modeling, but I've met some game designer, and perhaps like the design process and the research process, and also especially UT is also quite relevant. You can like adopt it in like the game design and development field as well. Okay, thanks for your inputs. So some of the projects that I've worked in includes like UOB, the commercial banking portal, and it's also like responsive design. So basically you will have to design according to like how the users use it in desktop and also in mobile breakpoints when they're using like a mobile website or the app. So that project includes like a research phase for 3 months and also a design phase for like around 7 months. And then I've also worked in a research and design concept projects for CPF. So basically to revamp the CPF website so that the users can learn more about CPF in a more like human language way, not like in very technical terms. And then I've also worked in a project with MSF, so designing a portal for their social workers to use when they manage their case, which is basically people who look for help. And also right now I'm working with Property Guru, more on the agent side. So how the property agents can post their listings and check their property listings. So the property seekers can take a look at it and then contact them for the rent or for the sale. So what is UX? I think UX has been quite broad, and a lot of people have different definition. And especially if you go into like different companies, they might define your role and your scope differently as well. So these are like some of the roles. I think you have also mentioned about what you want to do next. So the roles can be very different. Different companies may term their role differently, but I think the overall concept of like the design process and what you do, it's quite similar. So usually interaction designer and also like UX analyst or UX designer will be focusing more on like how the users interact with the screen. And the UI designer or visual designer will focus more on like look and feel. So as a product designer, I will have to like take care of both. So that's why it's like I also, although like there's like specific role for UX copywriter, but sometimes in a project or a company that is like smaller, you have to like put it into different heads to solve different problems or issues. So I would say if you are looking for a job, you can check like a job description to see if the job description fits or what you want to do rather than just looking into like the name of the role. And also there will be, when I was a designer in Accenture, I've also need to work as a researcher. But there are also companies like Property Guru, they have like a specific role for a UX researcher. So basically you're mostly be doing research, less of design, but you'll be also doing research on users and also the research on like the design that the designer produced. So some of the companies in Singapore, especially in gaming, you can look into is perhaps like Garena and also like Razer. And I have like friends in Hong Kong who was in Mad Hat. So they're also like doing gaming design development and also like copywriting or marketing as well. And some of the company that you can go into if you're interested in a specific product, which can be like Grab or like payment, consumer payment product, it can be DBS, and you will be working on like their PayLah product. Or some of my friends, they also are in GovTech. So you might be working in some open government products such as like the, parking.sg or even the Trace Together that you might be working on. So another way that you can go into the industry is looking into like different agency or consultancy. So I was in Accenture for a few years and also like advertising agency like Ogilvy as well. So by going into an agency or consultancy, you can, because you're not working on a specific product, maybe like 3 months you will be working on a project with your client like DBS, or another 6 months you'll be working in another client like a government agency. So you'll have more chance to join different projects and also like try out how different places work, or like even see, okay, what interests you as an industry. Maybe if you're interested, if you like your banking project, you might go into like a bank to be their UX designer or product designer next. So it's a way to explore like what, if you're not very sure what you want to do, then you can go into like consultancy or agency to work on it first. But I would say as a game, if you're interested in game design and development, like probably going in-house would be a better choice, because usually agency or consultancy wouldn't have the gaming projects. And although like that, those are like more digital projects, but as an experienced designer, it doesn't have to be limited to digital. So I have also friends who is an experienced designer in the zoo. So you'll be working on designing like the whole zoo experience, including like some game design, or how you go into how users interact with like different facilities in the zoo. And also like you can work as an experienced designer, for example, in like a hospital. So you're working in like the patient experience, like how would you want to shape the patient when they are in a hospital, for example. And also like another choice is to go into like, for example, Changi. So you'll be working on not only like the Changi app, but also like how different tourists or even Singaporeans experience at Changi as a whole. So I would say most of the UX jobs are related to digital screens. It can be like a kiosk, or it can be like your desktop to play games, or like apps to play games, right? Because of like the basically like these 10 years when a lot of people are interacting with the screens. But as I mentioned, it doesn't have to be limited to the screen if you're interested in other experience as well. So UX design is basically you working on for the users who use your screen. And most of the time, you're also working with a company as well. So it can be Grab, it can be like a game design company. And or if you're also, oh, one thing, I also have connections who used to work in like game design or development as well. So if you're interested, perhaps like in getting an internship or a job, then you can also like contact me. I'll leave my contact in the end. And also, so basically you're linking the business and also the users to like a screen. So you'll be working as like you'll be like a middleman. You're designing or developing a screen so that the company can talk to the users, and also users can talk to the company via a screen or like completing a task. So how is it like in real world when we work in a design project? So there's always a starting point. So for example, in poly, maybe it's because your teacher tells you you have a task in a classroom, right? So in a working environment, it can be like your boss that tells you you have a certain project that you need to start on, or your client describing, oh, we need to achieve this business goal, so let's work on this design. So for example, my UOB project starts with a revamp of like their current commercial banking portal, because they have been using the old design for like many years, but then it has been very as users move into like mobile, it's not very useful for user friendly for them to use on mobile, and also they want to refresh their look as well. So for example, CPF also starts with like a brief about, okay, like we have been using the CPF website for very long, and some of the content might not be as understandable for like different groups of Singaporeans or PRs. So how can we improve that? So there's always a starting point, which might be a hypothesis, or I think I want to improve something, or I want to start something. If you're starting something from scratch, for example, you're starting like a cryptocurrency trading app from scratch. So that can be a starting point as well. If you see like a need in the market, or your clients or your boss see there's something that they want to start or they want to change. So MSF as well, they want to improve how the social workers work on their digital portal, instead of like writing on papers to note down the conversations with their to people who look for their help. And also Property Guru as well. They started off as defining a problem. Oh, we think we can digitize like the property seeking journey. Like maybe used to be there isn't any websites or apps for property seekers to look for where to rent or sell, but they're trying to make a platform to put all that together, so agents can post, and also like property seekers can also look at the listing. So that's there's always like a starting point. So you will be designing software with like a lot of different peoples. In a commercial context, there will be like your customers, which is the users that will be using your desktop website or your apps. So there will also be like internal sponsors in your company who got a budget for you, and then they say, okay, let's redo the internet banking, so that they are like the people who pay for this project. And also internal stakeholders include like the people who are in like a business unit. For example, in a commercial banking, there will be a business unit who takes care of like a small business, who take care of like their banking, their bigger clients. So there will be the stakeholders who will give like feedback to your design or your basically your product, to say, okay, like maybe this doesn't suit my client's needs, or what can you do better to achieve like the goal, the business goal, or like the user's goal. And there will be you'll be most likely working with the product owner who owns like your product, for example, which owns the commercial banking product. So they will be making the decisions what should we do and how should we do it. So you be likely to review your design with them. And also you'll be working in an agile team, most likely. I'll describe a bit more. So in an agile team, agile is like a software development process. Basically, it comes about when it's like a very common development process nowadays, because like we can do incremental release. So for example, just look at your different apps like your Grab, like they're pushing new releases like every day. So an agile team will develop like a small release every day. It can be not every day, but it can be like every 2 weeks, so that it can be released to the consumer or the users like very fast, like every 2 weeks, instead of like last time, like prehistoric era, where when you build a website, you might need to like build all the screen first and then develop all the screens, and it can like take 5 years to publish to the users. So you can understand it from like a Photoshop or like your design tools point of view. Like every now and then they'll have updates so that you can use new features. But last time, maybe like 10 years ago, when you use like Photoshop, like you will need to buy the Photoshop like every 3 years, and then they will have some updates every 3 years for some new features. So nowadays, because like the releases are published like very fast, that's like empowered by like the agile development process. So in your agile team, you might be doing like design, or you might be doing like development work, and you'll be working with like your product manager. So these group of people will combine into a team, so that they will be all working on like a specific feature. So for example, like Grab might be divided into like the transport team, and then some of them might be working on like Grab food, or a small part in the Grab food. So they will all work together cross-functionally to release like to ship basically your feature to the users. So looking back into the design process, I think it's quite similar. It can be like a bit different from what you have learned, but the idea is quite similar. Basically, you're trying to, when you approach a project or a feature, you're trying to discover something first, and then you define the problem and issues that you want to solve. And then you go into like design, some ideation, and also like prototyping. And then you go into like testing it before you go into development. So these are some of the users research method that I'll go into details. And then after you do your design testing, you'll be passing it to the developers so that they can code it. And then it will be after the development process has completed, including like all the testing, the testing of the actual product, then it'll be delivered to the users. Then you can do another round of like research. So today I'll be focusing on like the user design research part of like the whole design process. I think when you approach this, you have to think about like what do you want to achieve when you go into like research or even like design. So before you do everything, you try to think about like an end product, or what do you want to really achieve when you're doing this. Because a lot of times like your lecturer or even like your boss will tell you, or your client will tell you, okay, like we need to go through like all these process. We need to do like persona, we need to do like journey, we need to do UT. Although like these are like some checklist items that you might want to check off when you go through the whole design process, but just stop and think about like what do you want to achieve at each deliverables, like a persona. What do you want to do for the persona, and how can you apply it to your next design process? So this is like a key when you want to give meaning, or be more like efficient in your work, so that you will be always thinking about the end goal. What do you want to achieve, rather than just like checking off a box. So one like interview tips as well, like when I was working in my previous company for hiring, although like a lot of the candidates, they will let us know, okay, like I have like done persona, I've done like journey, but then sometimes we didn't make the decision to hire them. It's also because they know they need to check off this box, but then they didn't really think about, okay, like what why I'm doing this, or like how can I apply like persona to my design, how I'm using that insights in my design. So without this thinking of like the reason and also the connections between your different tasks, then with this, then you can also show to your the people who interview you that like you're really like thinking through rather than just like checking off a list. So thinking about like why are we doing user research, right? So some of this is published in the 2021 UX research report that you can find online. Basically, a lot of like different researchers or designers, their most important goal of their research is to understand like customer need, and they might also want to validate early stage solutions, like using prototype to validate their design decisions first before like passing it to development. And also voice of customers might be doing research of their customers in general. And some of them might validate like late stage solutions. For example, I've already, people have been using like Grab now. So what's their feedback? So now I'm like also trying to understanding this. And so you can like think about like the reason you want to like do your research. So for example, if I want to do I want to understand like a broader, it's not like limited to a design solutions. I want to understand a group of users. Then you might start with like exploratory research. So a use case can be like you want to validate whether your users need your app. So if you have an app idea, say I want to create an app so that users can, so that people can do laundry, so that they can schedule a laundry and then you go pick up and then you help them to send to like a laundry shop. So if you have an idea about an app and you want to see whether your people really want to really like will use your app, then you can like do like exploratory research first. So for example, what people are doing now and what people say about like their current process of like laundry, say. So some of the questions that you want to go through is that what are the users like and what's like important for them, and how are the users doing this right now, what is working and what is not. So they can be using like other apps to do it, or they might not be using any digital solutions to do it. So you want to understand how they are like first, and what do they think, maybe, oh, I don't really need a laundry app because like um, um, because you might find out that, oh, maybe not a lot of people need this, and the business model, you might not earn a lot doing this. So you might like change it into, oh, just open a laundry shop, and then you can also like create a cafe, since like a lot of people are drinking coffee nowadays next to it, so that you can use this research to validate your ideas, and also like what you might want to change to develop your ideas further. And also like you can also research on what value, and after all these insights, right, you'll be thinking about what value should we bring to this group of users, and what problems are we trying to solve for them, and like who are our competitors. And you might have an idea of what you want to do, or your clients or your lecturers will tell you, okay, we need to like revamp the whole Grab app, say. But then because like you only have like limited time, usually you have a deadline, and usually you have a limited group of people, say you only have like 5 people who is working on this, including designer, developers, and you have like a long list of to do. So the first thing that we usually do in a project is to prioritize. Like basically we're answering the questions, what should we do? It might be a long list, but then you should also identify what should you do first, and what should we do later, which is not as important, and what's the minimum that you can do. So I've seen like one questions about time management. I think you can try to think about prioritization first, so that you can tackle the most important thing. So one of the way to prioritize is you can use like in projects we usually use like to measure like user value, so that if it's important to the users or it can bring money to a company, then it might be a higher value. And then effort can be like high or low. For example, it's a really quick fix by the developers and design, or it's a long development process that I want to build something. So you can prioritize based on this so that you can try to tackle those with the least effort and with the high value first, so that you do first. And you can always change like how you prioritize, right? For example, you can prioritize those which generates more money, or like something can be more wow for you to get better grades. So you can always prioritize those first, so that you try to aim for that A level, A quality work for those with higher priority. And you can do those like with lower priority next, and you can always choose your battle. So you can produce, you don't have to always be very perfect, right? You can produce like a B plus range of like the other lower priority works. So this is like how a startup like Monzo, a banking app in UK, prioritize. So it's like a public product roadmap. So they will always like put different features into, okay, what we should do next, and like later after like 6 months, or like in long term. So they will always like do something that is more important to them first. For example, they have done, see which of your friends are on Monzo to send them money. So if they prioritize like a social feature to keep the people on using Monzo, then they might be prioritizing the social feature first before they do something like split bills with friends, because you can always like pay a bill first. Then splitting bills might be an enhancement for your current design, so that you can always like move it to a later phase to do it. So this is also like an example of how I prioritize a feature with my team previously. So as you can see, we work in like different sprint. So one sprint is basically a 2-week design development phase. So after 2 weeks, we'll have to like complete a design of a feature, and also like the development of a certain feature. So basically we prioritize based on, okay, these are the minimum viable product that we need to design and develop when we launch a product, but something like we can move it later after the launch. It's more like enhancing the feature. So one example is like we're creating an app, which is like a app that the Singapore government has as well, like the Lumos app, if I'm not, I don't really remember the name of the app, but basically they track your fitness goal, and then like you can be rewarded if you like walk like 10K steps every day. So it's a similar concept that I've built for a company. So we have basically worked on like the design which needs to enable this. I log 10K step today, and then like I will be getting a reward. So this is like the minimum that I need to do. Then maybe after I release it, I want to enhance it by linking it to different like fitness app, like your Apple Health Kit. So users doesn't have to like log their steps, so that you can do it later. Or if you think that your minimum product is I die must include the linking of the Apple Health Kit. So you need to like prioritize this first, and then say, okay, let's do this, and then maybe we will do something else later. Something else later can be like, okay, sharing my reward on social media. Then you might need to like think about like what to do first and what to do next. So after you have like these list items, what you want to design and develop, when you have a brief design, you might want to do like a concept testing. But usually we might skipping this in a lot of project because like we might not have enough time. So the idea of like concept testing is, for example, you want to design like a t-shirt and launch a t-shirt. So you have like different designs, but you think based on your budget, you're only printing one design pattern. So you're like showing the design of different concepts. So to translate it to like UX UI, it can be like different screens, and you have like different visual elements, visual concepts to use it, to show it to the users. And you're not asking them to interact with it. You're just like showing them, oh, this might be how it will work or look like. So this concept A, concept B, concept C, and then you explain it to them and see like what's the initial response. So it can be like one of the way as well. And then yes, next. So next you'll be going into like the prototype and testing concept of your design. So which will be like one of the key themes that I want to talk about today. So some of the design tools that you have been using or you will be using might be like Sketch and InVision, and then also Figma. Figma has been like quite popular these few years because it allows you to collaborate with like your teammates in the cloud efficiently. And it might also be like using Adobe XD to do your design. And I'll also show an example of a working document later. So when you're doing your design, it's also important to check on the accessibility, so that people with different, so some people might not see clearly, or they might not differentiate the colors as sharp as different other users. So you also can put, you can like just search for a plugin on Figma, or even like go into a website color contrast accessibility, and then you can use this contrast checker to put on your foreground color, basically your background color, and also like for example a text, and then they will generate a ratio for you to check whether it meets like the guideline. So if it fails, it might mean that like people with who doesn't have a very good eyesight, they might not read your words properly on like an app or website. So you're trying to aim for like different to pass like the guideline. Basically, you increase the contrast of like the background and like the foreground or your text. So this is like one quick tool that you can do on your own when you do your design for accessibility, so that like people can see clearly of your design elements. So after you have like an initial design, so it can be like this, which is a XD document that I have been working on, which is like this. So it can be quite messy. So this is like quite messy because it's my working document. So you can see I put like different things here. You might start with like a flow of your screen, basically how users interact with like your different screens, and if they make a decision, then what will be next, so that you can lay it out and have a brief idea on how many screens that you need to do. So this is a slightly more complicated design. So that's why there's a lot of like different interactions between an admin portal, which the admin input something, and then the users will be seeing this on their front end, which is the app. So there's a lot of like different interactions of like the back end app that people use, the admin staff use, and also like how users use it. So basically, when I work on the design, I might include, because my design will be handing over to a developer, so I might like include like a different, this is like a wireframe stage, so that I might be including a lot of like different interaction or different state. For example, if users have done something, what will it show? If like it's empty, if they haven't done anything, what will it show? Or if they have done a lot of things, what will it show? So because of that, there will be like a lot of like different interactions and different states. So you will be like working for this if you are like a UX designer, product designer, or interaction designer, focusing more on like the interactions and like a lot of different flows and different states of like a screen. So when you are in this stage, you'll be most likely to review your designs with like those groups of business people, or like your teammates that I've mentioned, to get the feedback, or to check whether this requirement is like valid. So this is like one of the things that you do in this design phase before you go into like prototyping the details for testings. So sometimes like when we are in the design phase, right, we might start to do like usability testing, because you will want to see whether your design assumptions, because you're working on the design, you're not sure whether the users think this way or use it this way as well, or maybe you're too familiar with the design. So you are having a blind spot on how different users will be using your design. Sometimes you can also try to validate your designs before releasing to real users, right? Because it might create they might feel frustrated if it might not be like your design, but the idea of it. So if you get an initial feedback, like then you might you can change like the messaging to them or tweak a bit of the design to show them how they're interacting with it. So one example is that when I work with a company to develop an app for their employee, so there's one feature which allows them to send different praise message to their colleagues. So we design like this feature like a game, so that there will be like a leaderboard. Okay, if I send a lot of like praise to different colleagues, then I'll like go first. And then if I receive a lot of praise, then I'll also like go first, right? Then when we show like the design prototype to some employees as UT, then they told us, oh, like we didn't really like it because like we don't really have we're not like very competitive in our company, and we'll also be thinking what would that say to other colleagues or our boss that we came first if we get a lot of praise. So we changed that leaderboard into like a more social feature, which you don't see like the ranking. You might just show a top 10 users who give out the most praise, but we try to shuffle the order so it's not like in like a 1 to 10 sequence of ranking. So by doing UT, we can also like try to mitigate that possible risk when we release the feature to the users. So some of the things that you want to test on, it's about like the key flows of your what you want to some of the keys flows that users will be using. And if you have any arguments, not arguments, but I think that A solution is better and my boss or my client or my teammates thinks B solution is better, then you can also try to use UT to validate initial feedback from the users. And some of the things that you can't go wrong, then you might want to test it as well. And some of your design hypothesis. Recently, I've been working on a design which there's this interaction of like editing, removing, rotating your photo, right? So one of the interaction that we're trying to test out is when they will only show a photo, and when you hover on the photo, then the three dots, which shows more actions, will only be shown. And this is like a hypothesis or like some experiments that we want to do. So we might want to like test it first to see whether it's usable to the users before launching it. Although a lot of our design patterns are taken reference from very established design patterns like the Google material design. So when you use Google, like basically people are very familiar with interacting with it. So you're always trying to use those design interactions or components that is very familiar with like the users, rather than like creating a new icon or new interactions if they want to like drag and drop or access like more features. So UT, we're always trying to see why users are doing this or saying this, and also like how to fix it. So how to conduct UT? So usually if we are in like a project, we might deprioritize UT, or because like we're so busy in like creating the design and working with the developers or like coding it. So but then because of like the previous reasons, like it's always like good to do UT. So you can do it in a guerrilla testing format if you don't have like a lot of time or budget. So one example of like guerrilla testing is this like usability cafe. So you can like take a look at this video and how Google does it. If you don't have like a lot of time or budget to do it, you can just go to reach out to like different users based on your target groups of users and see how they use your app. So you can like just have a guerrilla testing to quickly test out like your idea. So there's like another way. Another way which a lot of corporates use is to use unmoderated testing, so they can reach out to a lot of like different users by using this like protocol user testing. I haven't been using it, but some of my researchers friends have been using it, so that they will be sending different users a link or a prototype of their website, and then they will create some task for them and then ask them to just use it on their own time and give feedback. So a lot of times, like in our projects, we'll be using this like moderator testing. So it's in a lab environment. As you can see, like the participants is here using like probably a desktop product, a website, and then the moderator will be, so if you're doing a researcher job, then you'll be the moderator here. And next to you, there will be a note taker for you to help you with like taking down the notes. And then in another room, people can also like see and listen to what the users are doing as well. So this will be like a secret room so that you can get like your different teammates or your clients here without disrupting the session so much. And another way, which is a bit more advanced in my previous company, is that we do eye tracking as well. So as you can see from like another big screen, the users, when they look at like different parts, like this dot will appear so that you can follow their line of sight and see like a heat map will also show like most users are focusing on this part or spending more time on this part as well. So there are a few steps to conduct UT. So before UT, you also think about what you want to do, the goal of this UT. For example, you want to enable, designing something is like to enable a user to complete the outcome. And you want to also help people, first-time users, to use as easy as possible. And you want to help them to easily find something that they want to do, and also have no dead end so that they can always proceed. So these are some of the guidelines from like this book called Good Services. So the first thing that you can do is to plan your to-dos. So for example, this is one of the planning of checklists that I need to do. For example, I need to start recruiting like different participants, and I also need to email them to tell them about their details. And if they haven't replied, then I might need to like remind them, and then I need to like set up this prototype, and then I need to create the task for the for this UT, creating a note-taking sheet for the note takers, do the prototype, review it, and synthesize the finding. So you can always like plan based on like your time and what you need to do as the first step. And the second step is to recruit participants. So sometimes if I'm in a company, then there will be also different staff to help me to recruit participants. So what you need to do is to give them like a brief criteria. For example, your app is to aim at like younger people, then you might need to tell them like the age range, and then like, oh, better to have like a mix of like different nationalities and also like different gender, for example. So you're trying to ensure your research, your participant is diverse as possible as you build your product, because like basically a wide group of users will be using your app. If your app is targeting to like basically, for example, people in Singapore, then you will try to get as diverse participant as possible. Can be like gender or nationalities or like their language usage as well. And then next you have to like set up your task and also note-taking sheet. So I'll start with like setting up a task for them. For example, I only have like 30 minutes for this UT. So I'll picking up like the 5 tasks that the users need to do. For example, they first land on the dashboard or homepage. So the first task can be by just looking at the homepage and understanding it, and then you can find, you can test your usability there. And the other one is you want them to complete something or like to want to do something. So you will be setting up like different tasks based on different user scenarios, so that you can like structure your UT in a different task way. And then you'll be, for example, your task is to just ask them to use the app and then like go into the homepage. Then next step, you'll be like listing out like the different steps for this task. For example, they need to tap something first, and then they need to like tap something later, and by just looking at the screen, so that by working on these detailed steps of what the users will need to do to complete this task, then you can like lay out your prototype and also like create your note-taking sheet, so that when users have difficulty in like finding something to tap, then you can like note down your observations. So this is like a note-taking sheet, which I include like the task and then the different steps of the task and some of the questions that I want to ask them. For example, if they're looking at this icon, how do they understand it? And this, I have like 5 participants. So each participant, I'll have like 1 column. And if they are able to tap this, then I'll put a yes here. Basically, a note taker would put a yes here. And if they say something, then I'll just note it down. If they have any difficulties or say something good about it or have difficulties, if this is an N, which means like they cannot find something or cannot do something, then you also want to like note it down on what they said or what they did wrongly so that you can like use that to improve it. So the prototype, as you can see, I've listed out like different tasks and what the users will be interacting so that I can like go and do my prototype, which is like this, which is something like this. So the tasks will be after I logged into this app, and then I want the users to take a look at this and comment on their understanding. So basically, if the first step, they need to like go to a home page and then click on something. As you can see, like there's a link when they need to click on something and it will show the screen so that you can lay out your prototype step by step so that when the users are doing it, they will be able to you will be able to test out the interaction as well to check that they really can complete on their own when they're using like your real app. So you don't have to like create all the different variations, but you always want to test out your main flows, or you don't have to test out all the error scenario. What if they do something wrong? But you can test out 1 or 2 error scenario, which is very important to the users, or there's a common error screens that the users will experience. So before the UT, because of like we're doing this remotely nowadays, so I've always like tried to include a guide. If you're using Zoom, if you're using Google Meet, you can tell the users, oh, you need to use your app, you need to use your phone to access to bring, you need to use your phone for that session because like, we're testing out an app. Or if it's a website, then you can ask them to use their desktop to join the session. Nowadays, I try to include a guide, basically a PDF document, just laying it out how they can share a screen, how they can join a meeting, so that different users, they might be like older folks, so that they will be able to like follow as well. So I'll send them a guide before the UT. So during the UT, if you're the moderator, basically if you're a researcher, you'll be guiding them. Okay, now you can like do this task, but you'll not be telling them like what to click or what to tap, but you'll be like just guiding them or asking them questions that you have set up. Or if they have done something like unexpectedly, then you can also ask them, oh, why are you doing this? And also like always try to ask that open-ended question like, oh, describe what you see or your understanding. How do you understand this? Instead of like asking like leading question like, is this good? So that they might be skilled they might be thinking that way. So you're trying to ask open-ended questions so that they will be able to give you more opinions. And a script, basically I'll also like create a script, basically telling them, okay, what do they need to do? And also if I have any questions, I'll also like list them out so that I will be making sure I went through the session, all the questions as well. So this is the last step. Basically, after UT, you want to like synthesize the learnings. One thing that you can do is after maybe 1 or 2 sessions, you'll be able to see a pattern as already. For example, like both users have difficulty or they have said something, so you can always like highlight it already and observe with the other participants. So after you have completed your testing, always include like a sessions with your note taker or everyone who has been in this session, so that you can like think about like 3 key points that you have observed from these sessions that is like really important that you need to like focus on. And the next few days of the UT, if you have time, right, then you'll be either addressing like the most important things that you guys talk about, or you can like already like listing out all the details in this like sheet, for example. Basically, it's about, okay, task one, what have I found? And what's the recommendation to improve in the design? And you can always like rank them in different severity so that you'll be able to prioritize. So this is like a thing to remember, like what is more important to choose your battle. So you can always like prioritize based on severity. So low severity can mean like it only appears to one participant and it doesn't really stop them from completing something. A high severity can mean like, oh, it stopped someone from completing something so that they are not able to achieve their task. Or a lot of users also experience this. So you can rank them based on like different severity, and then if you don't have a lot of time, you might want to just address the high severity one for your design so that you can like hand off to the developers and then change it and then to release it. And then you can leave the lower priority ones later on so that you can like go back to this prioritization chart. And then you can always like iterate based on like the high severity ones. So for example, one example that I've done as an iterations is that like after the UT that I've shown you to test on like that app which I've shown you previously, I've like recommended like several improvement that we can do. So one thing is about like a progress bar. So the progress bar is a bit complicated to that company because like this is like what the users have achieved, but this is like what they might get when they have done something. But then it's a bit hard to grasp at first. So you might want to do, for example, some onboarding just to explain what does this to mean so that they will know later on. Or for example, the leaderboard, the game ranking board that I have like talked about just now. So you can always like prioritize with your teammates or your clients what's more important to update for your design. So this is like the process of like a UT before you publish you give it to the developers to develop it. You can also do UT based on an existing product. For example, you want to do a usability testing on the existing Grab app so that you can just give the current Grab app to different users, ask them to try to order something for delivery, and then you can always like use that to test it out and then find things that you want to improve on. That is like part of the delivery usability testing after you have released your product to someone. And also another way is to use data analytics. You can ask your data scientist to give you to check the usage or analytics. For example, a lot of people encounter this error, then you might want to like focus your attention on it. And you can also use A/B testing for optimization. When I was in my intern company, we're always trying out which image that will attract more people to click on the article, or even like how I change the title so that people will click on it more. So you'll give like 2 pictures to the developers, and then like 50% of the people will see A and then 50% of the people will see B, so that you can experiment on like different design as well. So this is like the end of my sharing. I've like learned a lot like from different websites or articles like Interaction Design Foundation. They have like different video courses that you can do, or even like articles from UX Collective. You can also find your mentors on ADP lists, so that you can like learn more from like different people as well. If you're interested in like game design or development, then there might be like game designer in Singapore that you can reach out to be your mentor. If you have any questions or anything about basically anything about the talk, or you're looking for opportunities for your internship or your grad job, you can always add me on LinkedIn. Then you can message me and see what can I help you. If you have any questions, I have a public Instagram account which I put my writings there. You can also ask me based on that, or you can just send it to Mei Hua. so that I will answer it later on as well. So thank you.